If you're an investor or a trader, it's very important that you manage your risk. One of the best ways to manage risk is to understand when the markets are turning. That's why I invented the CTKS risk indicator. This indicator helps us to see when the market is weakening and when it's starting to bottom out. When it's weakening, when it's starting to bottom out. What can we see with the risk indicator at the current time? To answer that actual question, you need to look back at past risk indicator behavior, and we can see here that even though the S&P 500 was coming up, the risk indicator was saying, watch out below, this is not too good. And of course, over time, that came down. What about back here in August of 2022? The market was rallying hard, but the risk indicator was breaking down, and that gave a very good indication as to the potential direction of the market. What about when we go the other way and look at the risk indicator actually increasing? When we see big spikes up in the risk indicator, that means risk is on. When we see it bottoming out, that can potentially be a turnaround point. These things are very important to keep in mind. The real question, what do we see in the CTKS risk indicator right now? The first thing to answer that question, we need to understand if the risk indicator is actually cutting through support. When we look at this level of support drawn between these two bottoms, it's okay. When we look at this support drawn between these two lows, that is also okay. The risk indicator is actually indicating risk off sentiment. That means the markets are either consolidating or potentially rolling over. And we saw as the risk indicator came down, the S&P 500 actually still continued up. And now we're seeing that being felt inside Bitcoin, and the S&P 500 has come down just a little bit. So far, the risk on and risk off behavior is within normal parameters. So this is not something to be overly concerned about, but you must have made up your mind in advance in 3 dimensions. If the prices still, for example, if the S&P 500 or Bitcoin or whatever you're trading, gold, oil, it doesn't matter, Forex, if it continues to go your way, what will you do? If it goes against you, what will you do? And if it goes nowhere, just consolidates, what will you do? That's what the CTKS code is for. And that's our 3-dimensional risk management every single day. What are some of the things that you should look for in the CTKS risk indicator? When the risk indicator starts to lose a level of support, that could mean there's a sell-off coming. So that's something to be aware of. Inside the masterclass, we discuss hundreds of rules, and one of the more important ones is Rule 4. Price moves in waves. It's very important to understand price is always going up and down. This sounds really normal to a lot of people until you find yourself in a down wave and you sell because there's panic. Or you find yourself suddenly in an up wave and then there's FOMO, panic of missing out. You want to be riding those waves, not caught by them. We discussed yesterday that the S&P 500 has a lot of overhead smart money sell resistance. This is coming out in the indicator. That risk indicator is saying the sellers are taking over a little bit of control in the market. They've not won yet, but the concept is we should be aware. When we look at Bitcoin, we understand that the S&P 500 is coming into a lot of resistance. The sellers unfortunately overpowered the buyers, but look what happened to Bitcoin. Even though Bitcoin was selling down, and Bitcoin is currently 27,955, the buyers actually reverse Bitcoin's destiny between the 27,843 and the 28,038 level, because that's a smart money buy level. In other words, this negative price momentum, and we did talk about this yesterday, there's always a possibility that the market will move down and move up. It can do all 3 things. It can consolidate, move up, move down, all in a 24-hour period. But one thing that we do note is the S&P 500 futures. What are they actually telling us at the moment? There's negative price momentum inside the S&P just at the moment. And we know there's a lot of smart money sell resistance above the S&P 500's price just at the moment. What does this mean for crypto, and what does it mean for the main market? If you look at crypto, it's very, very sensitive to risk on and risk off behavior. That's why it's an excellent barometer of investor sentiment. And our focus as professionals is to track investor attention or investor sentiment, and that is always measured by price. Price is the reality. Promise is just a promise, but price is always true. We know the price can move in 3 dimensions. It can go down, it can go against you, it can go neutral, which means it just consolidates, or it can go up, which is for you, because we always leverage spot trades. Yes, you heard me correctly. We don't use leverage at all. We go long at spot. A big thank you to the Meditative Mind, who pointed out that ASIC just closed Binance's derivatives arm. Derivatives and crypto are very, very risky companions. The only protection you have is to go long at spot. I'm sorry, that just didn't feel right to say. How did the main markets fare in the past 24 hours? We saw a little bit of consolidation in the VIX. Risk-off sentiment is definitely in the market, and the major indices are being hit. The flight to safety of the bond market means that people are a little bit scared of the crypto market and also the stock market at present. And we can see yields just collapsing. We've got a little bit of positive momentum inside the DXY. And oil has been rallying, but it's just digesting that incredibly big move. If there is a recession on the cards, and recessions are always on the cards, oil will come down in price. Why is that? Because a lot of people will tighten their belts. It's really important to keep an open mind on price action. The markets are never rational. They never do what they're supposed to do. And what are they supposed to do? Well, they do that pretty well. They're supposed to desynchronize people. This is a harsh reality of the market, because when you're desynchronized, you will suffer losses, but when you're synchronized, you will get profits. As the markets are always moving in waves, desynchronization and synchronization are just bound to happen. When we look at Bitcoin and we understand that Bitcoin is a very, very good indicator of risk on sentiment, especially inside the stock market. If Bitcoin made its way down to around $22,500, that would be more than fine based on very short-term price action. A lot of people will be looking at that level. It's very important to get inside the retail mindset. When we look at the S&P 500, we can see that it's overcome a very important level of resistance. We also know that there's rock solid support down there around the 3,800 mark. So just beware of that very, very steel-like, very strong support in the S&P 500. If we get a bit of a wave down and it consolidates and maintains short-term support, then that's all looking really good for the S&P 500, which means it's looking good for just about everything except for gold. I think it's very important to keep your eye on the DXY. The DXY has come down very, very hard recently, and that's led to a broad-based rally. Let's have a look at the relationship between the risk-on master, which is Bitcoin, and the DXY. At the present time, they look fairly inverted, but how can we tell? We just invert the Bitcoin chart and see if Bitcoin's gravity is inversely proportional to the directional movement of the DXY. And we can see some synchronization, but it's not a really, really good indicator, at least not over this period. I've just reinstated the normal relationship with Bitcoin. I've not inverted it. And what we can see, sometimes the DXY and Bitcoin move together. Other times they actually move opposite to each other. It's not a rule that always the DXY moves inversely proportional to Bitcoin. And of course, when we overlay the S&P 500, we can see that the S&P 500 sometimes follows the DXY and sometimes it doesn't. In fact, the thing that we do notice is Bitcoin is much more closely associated with S&P 500 moves. Always remember, these relationships are always changing. Some people would have you to believe that there's an inverse relationship between the DXY and you name it. Could be the S&P 500, could be Bitcoin, could be anything. But the concept is, yes, for some times that will hold true, but for other times it will not hold true. And if you take it as gospel, if you say, yes, this is the law, this is the way it will always be, you'll get yourself desynchronized. Keep your eye on price action. As we approach Easter, a lot of people are checking out of the markets. And Kate and I are taking our first holiday in 2 years. After doing 861 videos and just missing one day, it's time to take a little bit of time for ourselves. And of course, we wish you all a very happy Easter. We can see that when it comes to the longs and the shorts on Bitcoin, and this can give us a bit of a heads up as to how things could potentially move, the longs have been coming out of the market and they're not really coming back in. Shorts are they were coming into the market and now they're lost a little bit of steam. Just at the present time, definitely the shorts have more momentum than the longs do. From a very short-term perspective, you can actually use the derivatives to kind of understand how the market may move. In the past 24 hours, there's been 82.06 million in total liquidations across 29,204 positions. And when we look at total liquidations across the past 24 hours, and this is what I'm going to start to drill down in on and give you a little bit of an edge inside the market, about 72% of total liquidations were long. Now you've seen it go up to 76% long. What about the past 4 hours? It's gone up again, 83% long. But what about the past hour? It's turning around, 61% short. If you look into Bitcoin, you can actually see that short liquidation just occurring there. So I wasn't at all surprised to see so many long liquidations and then starting to see short liquidations just starting. What you will typically see is one side will dominate the other until there's a turning point, and that is a kind of mini changing of the guards. That can give you some directional idea of where the markets could be going, especially if the liquidations have been very, very high. But we can see the total liquidations around the 80 million, they're not so great at the moment. Another really good thing to look at is the greatest gainers and greatest losers. This can give you a bit of market sentiment indication. We can see that Bitcoin is coming down 1.8% over the last 24 hours. There are always opportunities inside every single market. Just because the market turns red, that doesn't mean that there are not a lot of opportunities around. When we look at the greatest gainers over the past 24 hours, Clayton up in front, Trust Wallet, Neo, Maker, eCash, Tezos, and EOS. The EOSs, the OSs are getting the attention today. We often notice this. We can see E's and OSs, and then you can see all sorts of X's appear all over the place. It is a theme. I don't know why it's a theme, but it definitely is a theme. Well, at least it can be a theme. Let's have a look at the greatest losers past 24 hours. Stacks, Mask, Fracshare, ARB, Doge, CFX, and Rune. It's important to look at Bitcoin's gravity to understand how it's playing out on the alts. Just as Bitcoin over and under accentuates risk-on behavior inside markets, the alts also give you a bit of an edge when looking at Bitcoin. If you put all of this knowledge together and you know how to apply it, you can actually do a lot of very profitable moves inside the stock market, if that's your bag. We can see Bitcoin's gravity, and when we play that out over Ethereum, we can see recently Ethereum overextended that up move. Look at that. If Bitcoin did the same thing as Ethereum, where would it be? It would be up here somewhere. That's why you've got to look at gravity, and you need to know how to interpret it. What do we see with Binance Coin? We can see Binance just on the very short-term basis getting across a level of short-term resistance. One of the things that we notice with Binance Coin, BNB, when Binance starts to rock and roll, it frequently means the crypto market is turning around. It's a good one to keep your eyes on. What professionals do, they may not trade something, but they look at it anyway. Retail only looks at what it trades or invests in. Looking more broadly is your secret weapon. XRP put in a monster rally and it's just consolidating its gains. And why is it consolidating its gains? Because of the gravitational pull of the S&P 500 on the crypto market. What do I mean by that? That's rule 225. Bitcoin cannot escape the stock market's gravity. And what embodies the stock market gravity? It's the indices. For example, the S&P 500. So what does this actually mean? It's a bit of a multi-dimensional game. When you can see XRP rallying, you saw Bitcoin actually coming up and XRP was leading that path. So that was a really good thing. There was a degree of inversion, some really good news spikes in here. But as Bitcoin came down, XRP couldn't resist Bitcoin's gravity. It just had to go with it. And this is what we see all the time. But where was Bitcoin's gravity getting its lead from? You got it. It was getting its lead from the stock market, the S&P 500. And you can see this playing out rather well. Sometimes you get an overextension in Bitcoin relative to the S&P 500. You would want to see that. Bitcoin moves around like crazy. When I look at a particular chart, I just don't see the chart. I see all the indices, I see Bitcoin, I see the other alts as well, and then I look from that perspective. Let's have a look at Doge, and Doge became front news on Twitter, didn't Doge? And that of course created a bit of a roar inside Doge, but the concept is no alt can escape Bitcoin's gravity, which is of course rule 45, very, very important rule. We saw that recently ADA was doing very, very well, but you can see ADA is following Bitcoin's gravity. This is why it's critical to start with the S&P 500. Look at Bitcoin, look at all the other things that you can look at, and then look into your beloved alts. And of course, look into your beloved stocks or Forex or commodities or whatever it is. They all are intercorrelated and interdependent. Let's extend our analysis to Matic. We can see Matic moving in directional correlation with Bitcoin. What are we actually trying to do here? Why do we do this analysis in the first place? It's all about spotting inverters. What are inverters? Inverters go the opposite direction to Bitcoin's gravity. Why do we need inverters? Well, if Bitcoin is going down, you want to find yourself some inverters. What about Solana? You can see Solana moving in directional correlation with Bitcoin. What does that mean, directional correlation? When Bitcoin is moving up, what is Solana doing? It's moving up. That's directionally correlated. When Bitcoin is moving down, what is Solana doing? Well, it's moving down as well. That is directional correlation. And what do we see with DOT that recently replaced BUSD? It's moving in directional correlation. Let's apply this a little bit more. If you're an investor or a trader in DOT and Bitcoin is moving down because the S&P 500 is moving down, what actions are you going to take? Let's have a look at Litecoin. Litecoin has been known to invert Bitcoin, so just be aware. Keep your eyes on Litecoin. We can see at the moment it's moving in directional correlation. SHIB also moving, sometimes inverting, but on average the same direction. What about Tron? Tron is also in directional correlation, but Tron is a little bit more stable, which is quite interesting considering what happened to Justin Sun recently. What about AVAX? AVAX is moving in directional correlation with Bitcoin as well. So no real standout inverters here. Let's look a little bit further to the next top cryptos. We can see Link very much following Bitcoin's gravity. What about Uni? A little bit stronger than Bitcoin's gravity just at the moment. Could be something to keep your eye on. You can see that Bitcoin's gravity is pushing down. This is consolidating for Uni at the moment. Could be something interesting. And look at the difference in Atom's structure. Atom is starting to get over a level of resistance, just starting. So that could be an early warning sign of more positive price momentum. Just keep these things in mind. And what do we see? As this is coming down, for example, Bitcoin is coming down, what is happening to Atom? It's basically going up. We have found our first inverter. And we can also note a little bit of inversion here inside Uni as well. What about Ethereum Classic? Well, pretty much just moving with Bitcoin's gravitational alignment. Look at Stellar. What a stellar rally Stellar put in. But it's moving with Bitcoin's gravity at the current time. Filecoin, just an aligner. So the difference between an inverter and a aligner is a pretty easy point. Aligners just align. You can see Link is aligning with Bitcoin's gravity very, very well. And so is Filecoin at the current time. What about LDO? LDO is not a crystal clear aligner like Link. It's actually over and under exaggerating. Potentially under at the moment, but it did some recent over exaggeration, but it's getting pulled back inside Bitcoin's gravity. But it doesn't mean that you can't take advantage of these particular movements. And what about Aptos? Aptos, really spiky, and this can be very, very good for trading. Looking for inverters does take a little bit of time, but it's really well worth it. As Kate and I take a break over Easter, I would recommend that you start looking through the last couple of weeks of videos. For example, episode 847 is incredibly good. 848, 849, 850, 851, and who doesn't love Will Ferrell? And 852, 853, 854, 855. Just have a look at these. These are like little mini masterclasses. I always hide many gems and many knowledge nuggets inside each video. And it's likely you may have to watch them several times to get them out. So as Kate and I are taking a break over Easter, if you're hungry for content, please look through those past videos. They're absolutely superb. As a global family, we're into learning. Learning is a powerful, powerful thing. I love what Tiana just said. No rest for you, dear friends, Ken and Kate, in delivering. It's really interesting that Kate and I feel a little bit guilty in taking a couple of days off, but I think it's important. We're kind of getting a little bit burnt out. I think 2 years basically going 7 days a week with no time off could burn out a lot of people, us included. We have an incredible global family, and it's important to take some time out for yourselves as well. LGRC, be a humble learning machine. That's just beautiful. Love it. Well done, CJ. CJ said, every day watching your videos gives me guidance to what parts of the masterclass I need to revisit to refine my skills. Excellent, CJ. That's what it's literally all about. I would also suggest, if you would like to watch those past videos, please have a look at the comments. We just have an amazing global family. And to be part of that global family, you just need to reach out and say hi in the comments, and that's it, you're in. Kate and I do these videos because we want to help you to learn as much as you possibly can. Thank you, Miles, for your very kind comment. Approaching Easter, it's really important to consider our behavior and actions towards others. Thanks so much, Al. And Cindy was saying, Cindy's favorite word out of positive excellence is kindness. Art is always insightful, and Art said, negativity needs a negative influence to survive. If you don't put that negative influence out there, negativity just withers and dies. It's easy to think that our reactions and actions to other people don't really matter, but they really do matter. Every day, if we can bring a bit more understanding, a bit more learning, humility and patience, as Gianluca said, and a bit more kindness, like Cindy said. We just create a better world, a happier world. Positive excellence is a way to live. And Andrew said, generosity and selflessness. Terminal Orbit, love kindness. John loved inner peace, and Gabriel, gratitude. Jen talked about kindness and gratitude. A lot of people think that showing kindness is a weakness. It takes a lot more strength to be kind in an unkind world. It takes very little, if nothing, to just let your emotions run wild. Over this Easter period, it's a wonderful thing to show others kindness in any way that you can. If you show kindness, it's important that it is actually genuine. People can always tell fake emotions. As families and loved ones get together over this Easter period, it's important to move past any past hurt, past disappointments, and of course past anger. Every day is a new day. Most negativity simply comes from blame. Blame generates shame and guilt. They're horrible things to live with. It's just much more important that we either win or learn and guard the relationships around us. I like to think that it's more important to maintain a good relationship than to be right. To seek to understand first and then to be understood. Have a great couple of days ahead, my friends, and Kate and I look forward to catching up with you again very soon. We miss you already. Bye for now.